This is the Ninja Dual Zone Air Fryer, the most used kitchen gadget in my kitchen for the past 2 years. Does it actually hold up to daily wear and tear? Well, after 24 months, full body unit replacement under warranty, and a few design niggles that drive me a little bit crackers, this isn't as simple as buy it or leave it. I've cooked all sorts of things in here, from cakes to whole roast dinners, to steak dinners, to Michelin style food. In this video, I'm breaking down what features I use, what's not worth bothering with, and the 3 specific things I really wish I knew before buying it. Because most reviews are filmed after a week or so's reviews, I wanted to see whether once the honeymoon period wears off, whether it's still a useful gadget. So first, to run through some of its features. 2 years to the day I posted my review of the Ninja Air Fryer, and I did a lot of research before buying this model. It wasn't straight into the basket and off we go. I decided to buy this one for that 2-zone approach, so you can cook 2 different things at 2 different temperatures at 2 different times. And being the nerdy type that I am, I also bought it for its probe function. So let's run through the major features here. You've got 2 drawers that you can heat and time independently with different settings on both. And one of the best things that it can do is the sync and match function. Not joking, I use that almost every time I use the air fryer. Match so that both baskets do the same temperature. Sync so that you can set a temperature in one and a different time and temperature in the other, which will make sure they finish at the same time. So if you've got something that takes 15 minutes and something that takes 10 minutes, set it all up, press start, then after 5 minutes has elapsed, the second basket will kick in. A really good feature. As you can see from the front, it contains 6 different cooking modes, from max crisp, air fryer, roast, bake, reheat, dehydrate. In actuality, what that's doing is that's setting the temperature and the speed of the fan. It's just doing those 2 jobs for you. You can manually change the temperature to whatever you want within a certain range. You can't modify the fan setting yourself. So I tend to think of these as, how fast do I want the fan to spin? If you're not aware, an air fryer works with a heating element in the Ninja model from above, and a fan shoves the hot air through the food. And being such a small space, that's why everything cooks so quickly. Essentially, these work from left to right in terms of power. So max crisp is full heat, full fan. Meanwhile, down at dehydrate, it's a tepid 60 degrees with a barely audible fan. And after all this time, which of these settings do I use? Well, I do actually flick between all the different ones, to be honest. Not gonna lie, air fry is the default. Comes out at 200 degrees and off it goes. It's a good default. It's like when you set your main oven to 180 degrees, it's like the non-thinking, I'm just gonna turn it on temperature, and it works absolutely fine then. But I do adjust it. If I wanna reheat a croissant, for example, or a pastry for breakfast, I will probably choose the reheat option because it's not as severe, it's not as hard, it won't turn it into brittle dust. It's a more gentle fan so I can grab it while it's still fresh and crispy. I do also use the dehydrate function. I'm lucky enough that in my garden we've grown a variety of herbs, particularly bay. When we're getting a glut at those times of the year when it's absolutely rife, I'll chuck them in the air fryer and dehydrate for a few hours so I can get dried leaves straight into a jar for use through the rest of the year. I will also use max crisp as a kind of I really need this now button. It's a bit of a cheat, but if everything else is ready and I'm waiting on whatever else is left in the air fryer, I'll press max crisp to say turn everything to max just to finish it. It's probably not the most efficient cooking, but that's what I do. And then we've got the probe function. So the probe over on the side there, neatly tucked away, you insert the probe into the device, tell it sort of what meat you are cooking, set it all up, and it will stop the air fryer once a certain temperature has been reached. And this is the first of my niggles. I did a whole video just about the probe, and you can watch that up here. But there are 2 things that bug me slightly about that. One is the actual temperature function. When it's going up to temperature, it just tells you what temperature it's at and where it's going to get to. I would really love it if they could tell you a rough time in that as well. You kind of get a feel for it after you've used it a few times, but there's no way to see, oh, this has got 10 minutes left, because you can see the temperature ticking up as you go. I've cooked steaks, chicken breasts, desserts. I've also cooked very large joints of meat, whole beef joints, whole chickens, whole gammons in there, if you can find one that fit. The drawer is obviously a certain size. The other thing is the probe is pretty accurate, but not incredible. I tend to use it as an indication. So I will tend to pull it slightly earlier than it says. I think it errs on the side of caution. When I test it with a second thermometer, I find it's overshot it just a touch. Food that is thin, it will completely struggle with, because there just isn't enough mass for it to properly gauge how hot something is. The probe isn't for everyone. It's a bit nerdy, it's a bit geeky, it really suits me, but not everyone is interested in that probe functionality, so don't pay more for the probe if you don't think you'd use it. And then on to faults. About 6 months ago, I tried to turn it on and it was completely dead. This whole unit just refused to turn on. I tried changing the fuse, I tried different sockets, I tried all sorts of things, but it just wouldn't turn on. I contacted support and within seconds they said, no worries, bin it, we'll send you a new one. Which is very good in terms of support. I was within the 2-year warranty, but I'm a bit concerned that they were so laissez-faire and quickly replacing the unit, which tells me that's not the first time they've heard that one. Also, just this week, the second drawer made a weird noise and it got stuck in a loop where it wouldn't stop making the noise. I would open it and it would just repeat the noise over and over and over again. I read online and there's no strong consensus over what that might mean, so that's a bit concerning, but it hasn't done it again since. Is it a hint that it's all going wrong again? I don't know. Build quality comes up with Ninja gadgets all the time. Like I said, they're nice to look at, but some of the things aren't quite so robust. It doesn't feel premium. This is classic Ninja design where it kind of looks okay, but the closer you look at it, the more you think, actually, that's a bit naff. Plastic everywhere. Leaf switch buttons, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that could eventually fail. What about the baskets themselves? Well, this is probably my major drawback with these. When I was buying this, I was deciding between this one and the wider drawer version. And if I'm honest, I kind of wish I'd gone for the wider drawer version. Why is that? Well, sometimes there isn't quite enough space in a single drawer for all the things I want. I generally cook for 3 people most of the time, and there's just enough space, but sometimes I would like a little bit more. And particularly if you want to cook a variety of things, that becomes a juggling act. I actually invested in these super cheap baskets that stack on top, so I can cook multiple things, but that does mean continually going in and sort of rearranging everything. With the wide drawer Ninja version, I noticed it has a divider, so you can choose to take it in or out, so that would actually give me more flexibility. I haven't used it myself, but I think if I was going to go and buy one again, I would probably go for that model. Let's talk about cleaning. I definitely rinse mine through after every single use. Something a bit more greasy, a bit more dirty, I will spend a bit longer on it. It says in the manual you can put these pieces in the dishwasher, but it won't last as long if you do so. So I've chosen not to. Therefore, these have always been washed by hand over 2 years. It's not that bad. I fill it up with hot water and a bit of washing up liquid, leave it 10 minutes and then come back and scrub it all down. After a while, I do get a lot of grease build up on the sides of the basket. I find a bit of bicarb is really handy. Just shake some of that in there and with a damp cloth, just rub it all round and it should sort of the grit should release some of that fat build-up around the sides. It's not perfect, it just builds up over time, and that's nothing to be said for the grim underside where the actual fat splatters up. I've not yet found a good way to clean down there because it's quite a deep crevice. I'll link down to Candid Clara's excellent video on cleaning air fryers below, and that'll give you a bit more insight, but I found it quite difficult. So after 2 years of hand washing, if we look at those crisper trays, you'll notice there's a little bit of scraping and scratching there where this non-stick coating has started to come off. How much longer will that last? I don't know, but it's something to be aware of. And it's always worth remembering, if you're going to go with air fryer and their non-stick coatings, make sure you've got plastic or wooden implements to help you get stuff out of there. Don't use metal on it, you'll just scratch it to death. When I actually sat down and thought, yes, I'm going to review this air fryer 2 years on, I thought it would be an overwhelming gush of praise. But actually, the more I thought about it, the more I thought, yeah, there are a few niggles, there are a few drawbacks that I want to draw attention to. So in conclusion, would I buy this one again? Probably not. That's not an absolute rejection of the model itself. All I'm saying is I would probably go for that wide drawer model. So I like the technology, I like the customer service, and I like the overall working with it. But I think you could probably get away with a cheaper model in the long run. Do you own this model air fryer? If you do, pop a comment down below and let me know your thoughts and how you get on with this appliance. And otherwise, I will catch you next time.